Warning.
What's good? Social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. What's good, Black family? Peace and love to everybody today on this wonderful Thursday morning. You are live back with us here at Revolutionary Wealth Builders podcast, where we're going to be bringing wealth education to the people today. I'm your gracious and appreciative host. Today we have a very powerful show lined up. Sorry we missed you last week. It was a hectic and long week. We had a lot working in the background, but we're back this week, and we happy to be back. The show that we have lined up for you today is a very important conversation, very important topic. But I'm gonna need some time to post this live stream in a lot of different groups because this conversation that we're going to have today is an age-old conversation. And I remember doing some information and some research back in sometime around 2007, 2008. And during the time, I actually had a mortgage on my property. That was so before I do all of that, I'm going to give you a history on my property acquisitions so you guys will understand that I have done everything that you can do as it relates to residential real estate. And so it's going to be important that I'm speaking from a practical place, but also a place of experience and wisdom, but also of a place of extensive research. As a mortgage being an asset class in and of itself, and then your home being an asset class. And so we're going to discuss what that means because a lot of people don't even understand what that means. But to be frank with you, I'm really tired of having these discussions with individuals on social media. So I decided to just do a full length show today about this process and about this product, which is a loan or a mortgage for a specific type of asset, which is a home, which turns the loan once the home is purchased and it has a mortgage on it now into a new product, which is called a mortgage-backed security. And a lot of people don't understand that. I'm going to break all of this down for you. I'm going to simplify it, and I'm going to explain to you why renting may be a more viable option than a mortgage. And we're going to really, really dive off into that. And you guys can call in, chime in, comment, and let me know your thoughts on that in a second. But before we dig off into the show, I just want to say what's up to the super producer, and I hadn't seen him in a minute.
What's the word, brother? What's the word? What's the word, man? Yeah, you already know, man. I look forward to this show every week, man. I'm always learning something. I like learning. You know what I mean? I like getting new information, and you know, this is one show where I can always count on that to happen. So, you know what I mean? I'm good to have you back, brother. It's always good to have you here, man.
Absolutely. And hey, we about to get it in because this show right here is this is a show that a lot of people are really not going to want to hear. And some of my closest friends are realtors. But unfortunately, as much as I respect them, not all of them, because I have a couple who really don't move the way that I'm getting ready to describe. But a lot of realtors, they're only focused on real estate. And they don't view real estate as an asset class. They don't look at real estate as an asset class. They look at real estate as their livelihood, their life's blood, as the most important thing that a family can do. And there are other ways and other options to actually skin this cat. And that's what I want people to understand today. So let me go back. I need you guys to give me 1 second because I'm posting this on my page. I want people to tap in. And I want to make sure that I make this accessible to everybody because this is a question that people ask me all the time. Should I rent? Should I buy? Should I post? Should I rent? Should I buy a house? So let's get started. The history. Let's talk about the word mortgage for a second.
Mortgage.
You have two words. The etymology of those words, it's two different words. What we typically call in American English language a compound word. Mortgage is a compound word. Mort is the Latin root word or the Greek root of the word death, as in mortician. Yep. Mortality. Rigor mortis. So the word mort means death. Gauge. To gauge something, to understand it, to commit to it, to measure it, means pledge. And so mortgage, the etymology of that word breaks down to death pledge.
Damn.
So when you enter into a mortgage, you've made a death pledge, meaning I pledge to pay this until I die. So that's where that word came from. So you can take the word mortgage and say, who cares what it used to mean? All I know is when I bought my house, I got my keys. You got to understand why people create language. Language is powerful. Words are powerful. Absolutely. And so during Greek and during Greco and Roman time periods, when you bought a home, you paid for the home for the rest of your life. There was no paying it off. That's where the concept of mortgage came from, because it was a death pledge. You pledged
to pay that until you die.
So,
wow.
Don't argue with me about this. Just go do your research. I'm giving you the information. Go do your research. You're on point with the meaning of the word. Oh, absolutely, for sure. So I've been doing workshops on building wealth for close to a decade now, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been on this research for years. I'm watching these new podcasts, and they're just now uncovering what the word mortgage mean, when I had this in workshops 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that's facts. I still have them. I mean, they time stamped, right? So that's the first thing that we have to understand. So let's talk about the pros and cons, because I did this before back in 2006. Let's talk about the pros and cons to a mortgage.
Okay.
Safety. That means you know that the owner can't put you out as long as you pay the bills. When you rent a home, even if you paying your rent, the owner could say, well, I need you to move out because I need the house back. The owner might stop paying the taxes and he might lose the house. So there's no safety. There's a certain level of safety in a mortgage that is not present in renting. I'm going to repeat that. There is a certain amount of safety and security in acquiring a mortgage that does not exist with rent. And that is a fact. You can raise your children in the same school system all their life. You can pay the house off in 30 years sometimes and actually own the house cash outright. You can pay rent for 30 years and you don't own the house. But here's the interesting thing. 66% of people who enter into a mortgage never pay off the home. So you have a 1 in 3 probability, this is factual data, look it up, of actually paying off the house in the first place. So once you start to incorporate other factors into the mix, you have to decide, are you going to be one of the people who pay the house off to the term of the loan? So now let's say you do go 30 years with your mortgage. You pay $100K for the house, right? On a $100K loan with 20% down traditionally, which a lot of you are not doing. A lot of you are going Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and you putting down 3-5%. So you really only putting down $3-4 grand on a $100,000 house. So you still just paying all of this money for the property. You haven't put a dent into the principal, right? But you paying $100,000 for the house. Let's say your interest rate is 3.9%. So, and then your APR is 3.9% on the house, just under 4%. And I'm being nice for black folk, because typically we don't get 4% on loans for houses. We typically pay 8-9%, and that's just the way it is. But with that being said, let's say you end up paying the house off over 30 years. You know, for an extended period of time on the first half of that loan, you're just paying off the interest, right? So by the time you pay the house off, you've bought the house 2.5 times. So you're not paying off $100,000 loan. You're actually buying the house for $250,000. Right. So let's say over 30 years, the house goes from a $100,000 valuation to a $250,000 valuation. You're just breaking even. You're paying $150,000 more for the house than you would have paid if you would have just bought the house cash. That's a fact. Do your research. Look it up. When you get a mortgage paying over time, you have to pay for the time of the loan, for the amount of time that you're paying on the loan, and you have to pay the actual interest, which means you have to buy the house 2.5 to 3 times before you actually own it. So for those of you who love the safety and security of living in the suburbs, of knowing that where you're going to wake up every day, I can respect that. But just know you're paying 2.5 times more for that. So let's talk about some of the things that you are responsible for in relationship, in conjunction with your mortgage. You are also responsible for getting the grass cut. You are responsible for the lights, gas, water. If the garage collapses, you are responsible for putting a roof on your home. You are responsible for a multitude of things that also make home ownership a little bit more expensive. So they always say expect annually to pay 1 to 2% in maintenance on your property in conjunction with. So 1% of 1 to 2%, that's another couple thousand. You are responsible for not only the mortgage, but you are responsible for the insurance. So if your mortgage is $1,000 a month, in reality, you are really paying somewhere around $1,600 to $1,700 per month in maintenance, in just everyday upkeep, and also other things like your taxes on the home, right? So in every facet of a mortgage, you are paying in excess of 150%, somewhere between 50 to 150% in excess of all of the expenses beyond what you're actually purchasing the house for. Now let me finish up this thought, and then I can see in your eyes you got a statement. So then you go to the rent side. I go out to West Bloomfield in a secure community. Not even let's say Southfield. I go to Southfield in a secure community, and I'm just paying my rent in Southfield. 2-bedroom, $1,500 a month, right? So I'm paying $1,500 a month plus my lights and gas. The water is included. All I'm paying is $1,500 a month. That's it. I don't have to pay for a roof. I don't have to pay taxes. I don't have to pay to get the grass cut. Anytime something goes wrong in the house, I call the maintenance people and the managing people. So I'm not spending additional money. So over the years, I'm literally saving anywhere from $700 to $800 a month from renting. So you times that times 12 or extrapolate that times 12, that's anywhere between $8,400 to $9,600 a year that I can just save up. So for 30 years, I'm saving. If I rented for 30 years, when we're done renting, I could have taken that money and invested it in a multitude of other asset classes, and I could have made the $250,000 plus more in 30 years at annualized 7% return on your money on $10,000 a month for 30 years. That's $12,000 a year for 30 years. 10 years is $120,000. 20 years is $240,000. 30 years is $360,000. When your mortgage is done, you have a $250,000 asset and no cash coming from it. When you're done renting after 30 years, you could have saved the residual minus your rent, and that would have equaled $330,000 cash, and you have a $250,000 asset paid off cash, but you got $330,000 worth of either cash, which we know depreciates, which is why you would have to invest it, or you would have the investment proceeds, all of that money. So when you really look at it, mortgages really don't serve you the way that we think they do. Now, here's a way that a mortgage can help you. I'm gonna state this, and then after that, I'm just going to come and destroy mortgages after I let you make your point. You can use mortgages to buy houses at the right time as leverage to make money. When the housing market is cheap, you buy homes, you buy more, you get mortgages and loans to leverage the opportunity to buy more than you would be able to buy with your own cash. Typically, getting a mortgage means you can't afford the house. Typically, getting a mortgage means you can't afford the house. Typically, getting a mortgage means you can't afford the house. I'm saying typically because it's not that way for everybody. But typically, you are getting a mortgage because you do not deserve to own the house, because you have not earned enough money to live there. You have not earned enough money to buy a $500,000 house in West Bloomfield, because you have not earned a $500,000 in cash to go and buy the property. So you put down $21,000 from your tax return, and then you struggle to pay that mortgage over 30 years, and only 1 out of 3 people pay the mortgage off in the end. This is data, and these are just stats. So with that being said, what's up, Lauren Catrice? So with that being said, the best time and the only time to buy a mortgage is during when the market has collapsed or corrected. Now, I had a close friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, bought a house in Southfield in 2009 or 2010 or something like that, right at the right time. He probably didn't even know what was going on. Bought the house for about 110 or whatever in Southfield. Lived in the house for about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I guess ended up selling the house for like $270 or something like that. He bought at the right time, sold at the right time, got lucky, rode that way, bang. He got that. He got that equity, and he moved on to something else. Made it happen. It happens like that sometimes, but it doesn't happen like that most of the time. I know other people who have done it that way. But the percentage is low, the probability is low, but the possibility is there. The best time and the only time for me to get a mortgage would be when you are buying when the market is down. But getting a mortgage today, in my opinion, to live in the house serves no purpose. Now, going back to my notes. Safety and security. If you want to extend yourself and go into debt and think that the home is going to become a viable asset for you in the future, then go right ahead and do so. But I just broke down data and numbers that if you paid the house off to term, that you're still not making a lot of money. This is the perfect time not to buy a house on mortgage. This is the perfect time not to buy a house on mortgage, because we are in a time where housing valuations are so high. You think that they're going to go higher, but they're not going to go higher. And even if they are going higher, the valuation of the money is really why they're going higher, meaning the dollars just can't buy more house, and the interest rates are going up, and we are in a bad time and a bad place to get a mortgage today. Go ahead, good brother.
I was just thinking the whole time, but you kind of answered the question afterwards. I was thinking, like, so having the mortgages, it almost sounds like a scam almost.
It is a scam.
You see
It's a
what I'm saying?
scam.
It's like, but then at the same time, having one has its benefits and its advantages if you know when and where to use it, sound like, right?
Exactly, yep. But it's a scam, but it's like any other game. You got to know how to play it. It's like any other game. Like, let's take any other Ponzi scheme. Because that's essentially what it is if you don't pay your mortgage off. A Ponzi scheme, some people make money off Ponzi schemes. Some people get paid.
Right.
But most people don't. The people who get paid off of the people who get paid off Ponzi schemes, they're always going to endorse and support Ponzi schemes because they eating. But the most people don't. And the people who don't eat, they typically don't share it with you because they feel dumb. They feel stupid. They feel played, so they don't share it with you. Now, there are some insecurities with renting, specifically residential properties from mom and pop's landlords. Those are high risk propositions, and those are the majority of the rental propositions that we find ourselves in. But when you're talking about a 3-bedroom condo by the Singh Corporation, or 3-bedroom condo by companies who have been around for 30, 40, 50 years renting property, then that's a whole different proposition. I am not saying that renting is better than mortgages all the time, but I just highlighted and itemized data that proves that you can save more money renting than you can paying a mortgage over a 30-year period. So now let's talk about rent versus mortgage versus ownership. The whole goal is to own your home cash. You want all the equity in your home to do everything that you want to do for yourself. Mortgages create this false illusion of what they call the wealth effect. Let me tell you what the wealth effect is. The wealth effect is a term made by economists where when your property valuations go up, you think you are richer, but in reality, you are not. So you bought a house for $250K. In a year, it goes up to $300K. So you feel like I got 50 more thousand. So now I can go on more vacations. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. The wealth effect is when you have the illusion of grandeur in your mind that your property valuations on your asset or your property goes up. And so now you believe you are richer. And in reality, nothing else happened. I'm going to break down to you property valuations versus equity and how equity is fake. Equity is fake. Equity is fake. The true value of a home is to cover you from rain, snow, and cold weather and to give you a place to be peaceful, to think, to make love to your spouse, to raise your children, and to say, this is mine. That is what it is for. Property, owning a home is not to make money unless you are a real estate investor. You do not buy a home to make money. A house is not an investment. A house is a liability. A house costs more money than you will ever make off of it in life. Wealthy people will tell you that a home, buying it on a mortgage is a liability. It is a liability. It is a liability. And the reason why I'm saying that is because smart people think they know something different and they don't know the truth. Houses are a liability. They are not an asset. The equity is the asset, and the equity isn't real unless you do something with the equity. The equity on a mortgage is just like stock. If you don't sell the stock, pull the money out and buy something real, the money just sits there and just you are able to say, I have it. But if it's not working for you, it means nothing. The equity in your home does not start to have any value until you pull the equity out of the property and invest it in something that makes you money. If you don't do that, the equity means nothing because the valuations can go back down and the same equity that the fake valuations gave you can be taken away. Do you understand that? All right. So now let's talk about property valuations. Here's some of the things that where your property value should go up. New housing development around you in your neighborhood. New malls, new grocery stores, new elementary, middle, and high schools, new fire department, new police department, new security upgrades, private security company. These are the things that make property valuations go up, where you get equity in your home. If your house is just going up because everybody is fighting over buying a house, that's not real equity. That's not real property valuations. And if you do find yourself in that situation, you just sell it. Sell it and take advantage of the fools who will overpay for something that is not worth it because they're desperate to live in something. They're desperate to live in something, and that's all it is. And these are just facts, and there's really not much to refute that. Now, buying a house 7, 8, 9 years ago, you were cooking with Crisco, but you gotta buy the property at the right time. But borrowing money from banks is no different where if you're going to leverage to do anything. Buying a house on time, you did not buy a house. You are buying a house. You ain't bought nothing. Because if you don't pay your mortgage 3 times, they're coming to take it. You didn't buy a house. They gave you some keys to their house until you pay it off. And here's the interesting thing about a mortgage. Check this out. Pay your mortgage for 29 years and 4 months, and then don't pay your mortgage for the last 8 months, and see what they gonna do to you. They made all the money off you, and they took the house back. How is that yours when you have to pay it off all the way to the end? Don't you realize that you can pay your mortgage for 29 years and 6 months and still lose your house? You didn't buy a house. You're buying a house. Now, with that being said, There are some people, and I respect this, that they want a house in Canton because I bought in Canton. I lived in Canton for 5-6 years. You want to buy a house, right? You want to live safe and secure. You want the stability. You don't want to be bothered with having to move. You don't want to be bothered with a lot of things. You're willing to overpay for the property because you make the money and it don't matter to you. The most important thing is the safety and the security and owning the house and retiring and growing old, and you know you're going to pay it off. I salute you. I commend you. I respect your gangster. I respect your grind, and I respect your approach because it's your life and you have to do what you have to do. The data suggests that most people will not match your energy and resolve. I got family members whom I love, uncles, aunties, cousins, that I know they're going to pay their house off. I know that it's going to be a valuable thing to them, and I know they're going to give it to their kids. My grandfather paid his house off and left it to me. You see what I'm saying? Left it to our family. He did that. I know the value in a mortgage, but it ain't for everybody because everybody ain't my grandfather. My grandfather was a boss, a businessman that stuck to it, that was going to see it through, that doubled up his mortgage. He didn't play games. Most of us play games with our bills. That's why most of us end up losing our homes. 1 out of 3 people pay the mortgage off. So y'all do what y'all going to do with the information. I'm just the deliverer of it.
So they pay the mortgage off. Is it still how could they still lose their home if that's?
Well, they can still lose it through taxes, but that's all of us, even when you pay it off. But once you pay the house off, there is no more mortgage, and they can't take it. But if you don't pay your taxes, you can still lose your home. America has it set up where they try to get us from every angle, and so we have to be sharp. So I'm going to repeat. Is there a special group of people out here who get mortgages, pay them off, see it through, it becomes a value, they sell the house, make a little money off of it, and do the thing? Absolutely it is. That percentage is less than 33%, and 33% go all the way to the duration of the loan and keep the property. Mortgages are created by the bank so they can create more wealth for themselves by loaning you money for a house and taking that money and loaning it out. Absolutely. Charging interest on it. So let's get back to the next part. So let's get back to the actual federal funds rate. When they raise the interest rates, they are making it where you can't buy as much house as you could buy 4 months ago. 4 months ago, if you could buy a house for $300,000, now that same person can't buy a house that's more than $200,000 because the interest rates have went up on the property, and so now they can only buy a certain amount of house because the monthly payment has went up. The monthly payments have went up on everybody. Let me see. I'm just want to buy land now, and that's the move. Tamika Thomas just made a statement. I just want to buy land now. Buy you some land and build you a house on your land. Do it slow and do it at your own pace. Don't get a mortgage. Buy you some land and build your house little by little. Buy your lumber and store it. Then erect your frame. Then lay your foundation, erect your frame. Then put your walls up. Then put your windows in. Do it step by step by step. Don't go out here and get a 30-year mortgage and pay triple the price of a property and let them play you and work you out of all your hard-earned cash. Pay for your home cash. Pay for your home cash. Buy your home and pay yourself, right? So with the federal funds rate going up, the interest rates have went up on properties. What a lot of people don't understand about your property, what one gentleman was saying to me when we were having a conversation the other day, he was saying that homes are so valuable, that's why they put them on the stock market. They don't put these houses on the stock market. They'll package property up and put it in a REIT. But what he was trying to express is that mortgage-backed securities, the loans on the property, they package the loans up and they do what they make loans with subprime loans. They package up and put all of this stuff in the loan. They put credit cards in the loan. They put car note payments in these mortgage-backed securities, and they put houses in these mortgage-backed securities. If you are a A1 rated borrower, you go into the high box. If you are a subprime borrower, you go in the low box. And what they do is they package these loans up and they sell these loans to investors. And every long as you pay your loans every month, these investors get a return on their investment. But once you stop paying on your loans, those investments crash. When those investments crash, the mortgage-backed security market crashed in 2008. A lot of people saying that we're not in the same market. We are in the same market because mortgage-backed securities never went anywhere. They just called them bestowed tranches now. They gave them a different name. And so you guys think that mortgage-backed securities don't exist anymore. But mortgage-backed securities do still exist. And the housing market is going to crash for another reason this time. It's going to crash because people are not going to be able to pay their mortgages. That's the first thing. The housing valuations, we're in the cyclical markets. You got three markets. You have cyclical markets, you have linear markets, and you have hybrid markets. California is a cyclical market. Miami is a cyclical market. Japan is a cyclical market. These are markets where the cycles go up and down over decades, over decades, over decades. California, Miami, Japan are way up here. They're getting ready to, those markets are going to crash. They have to because it comes in cycles. That's it. A linear market is like Detroit, Kansas City, Iowa. That a linear market is like it kind of stays steady. It works across. For the most part. Yeah, like Detroit markets really don't crash, but they will correct. And Detroit is going to correct. But where the market is going to lose, where a lot of properties in Detroit are going to lose a lot of value, is because when the big three collapse completely, which they will, the big three are going to close the majority of their plants in the cities, in around surrounding cities. And the people in Detroit, the UAW, I hate to say this, I wish you the best, but you're going to have to find a new job within the next 36 to 48 months at the most. At the most. The majority of UAW workers will not have a job. They're going to fire the majority of the white collar workers, and a lot of the white collar workers are going to push the blue collar workers out of the workforce. White collar workers are going to go back to the assembly line. If let's say if Chrysler has 50 plants in Detroit, they're going to downsize to about 3 plants. There are going to be a lot of people not working. There are going to be a lot of people in the service industries not working. As the economy continues to dwindle, people will not be able to pay their monthly debt obligations, and the largest one is typically your mortgage. People are not going to pay them. They're going to lose those homes. Those homes are going to go back on the market. The only reason why a lot of realtors believe that there is more demand than there is supply is because people had fake money, because money was printed and everybody had PPP loans. When quantitative easing takes place and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury prints up a lot of money, the money has to go somewhere. It goes into real estate, stock, and crypto. And stock and crypto are going down. Down. The only reason why real estate hasn't went down yet, because they're propping it up, because they know that is the factor in which everybody knows that everything has gone bad. And they can only keep the stock market up for so long. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, in my opinion. This is not investment advice. They're going to have to print money one more time to survive. They're going to do a major printing fest. And money is going to go back into real estate again in the next 12 to 18 months. Next 12 to 14, 18 months. Money is going to go back into crypto. Those asset classes are going to blow up again. But real estate is not going to go up much more than what it is, but it's going to stay propped up.
Value of the dollar is going down.
Right, exactly. And so once all of that money is printed, crypto is going to go up one more time. That's going to be the time where I jump off the crypto train for good. And then that final time, once everything goes, we're going to go into what was termed a depression. There's going to be a recession, it's going to be 4 or 5 straight quarters of negative GDP. That a recession is 2 straight quarters of negative GDP. But the Federal Reserve is trying to change the definition of it because we've already had 2 straight quarters of negative GDP. So we are officially in a recession. When we get to 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times, once they had to print the money to keep us alive one more time to keep us on life support. They already started because they're giving you money for gas, stipends. They're giving y'all money they're sending money out now in different states. They're sending the stimulus money out again. Once they go full-fledged stimulus and print the money up again, they're going to have one last run at real estate, crypto, and the stock market. Is going to shoot up, then it's going to boom. It's going to collapse on you. Once it collapses, it's going to be because the money is ran out. The companies and corporations have now downsized and got rid of a lot of employees. And the corporations are going to basically go off into the pasture and commit suicide. We will rebuild, but we're going to go through a time and a process that could be a tad bit painful. And what it's going to look like is a lot of people that's living in some big houses are going to have to sell them. And the banks that stay alive, the bigger banks are going to eat up the smaller banks. So if your loan is with Wells Fargo, it may get eaten up by JP Morgan Chase. So your loan is going to go from Wells Fargo to JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase ain't going to have no relationship with you. They're going to want their money. And when you don't have it, they're going to take the property. All of the good properties the banks are going to keep because they're going to realize that we are in a recessionary period. The cycle of the dollar is crashing, and they're not going to want cheap dollars back for the properties. So they're going to keep them. But the ones that we are able to acquire by buying from private owner to private owners are going to be selling those properties for pennies on the dollar because they're going to be desperate to stay alive, especially dudes who own 10, 12 properties. They're going to be selling the properties to just stay afloat. They're going to keep their main house, but those other 9, 10 properties, they're going to sell them. So we're going to be able to buy these properties for pennies on the dollar. We won't be able to buy the big time properties from the banks for pennies on the dollar because the banks are going to want to keep the assets because they know that the dollars are worth nothing. But the people who need dollars to survive and buy food on an everyday basis, they going to sell us those houses for cheap. So y'all can take all that information and do whatever y'all want to do with it, but I'm a historian when it comes to economics. This ain't my first rodeo. This has happened 4 or 5 times in history, and you're not going to change it because you hope something's going to change. So let me see what people are talking about in the comments, and then we're going to talk about 228 teaser loan, 40-year mortgages, forbearances, and subprime loans as other reasons why mortgages are going to fail and collapse and why property valuations will go back down at some point. So if you got a big time property valuation, you better sell the house if you feel like that's one only reason why you bought it. I own my house for the safety and security of putting a roof over my family head. I don't care if they say it's worth $1 or worth $1 million. It's all the same to me because it's only serving one purpose for me. I didn't buy the house as an investment. I bought it to protect my family. I bought it to protect my family. I bought it to protect my family. The house can be worth $1 million or worth $1. As long as the roof covers my house family from the rain, I don't care what they say the house is worth. Once you get that up here, you're going to be good to go. Rashida A. Harris, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate the information because it's all out of love. Buy land to put a manufactured home on it. I see those homes as low as $10,000. They need work, but the main thing is you got your land. There you go. Buy you a small 3-bedroom brick bungalow for 40 G's on the northwest side over on 7 Mile in Ashton. Little $40,000 brick bungalow is yours. The houses are decent. The blocks are decent. But we want to take that $40,000 and put it down on a $400,000 house and go live in Farmington because we don't want to live around our own.
And lose it in 7 years.
Yep, and because we don't want to live around our own people, which is another issue. Black folks buy too many houses in the suburbs because they don't want to live with their people around their own people. We have to live in our own communities and build up our people. And I love you. I love my family members who live in the suburbs. I lived in Canton for 6 years. I'm not judging you. I just know that a part of the process is we don't want to be bothered with knuckleheads around our property going stealing our cars or stealing all of that other stuff. I understand it because I was there at one point. I just made a decision to come on back and invest in my people. That's just how I'm doing it. I'm not judging you. I love you. We family. You're not doing it wrong. I know a lot of my people are doing it their way and they're doing it right for them. I'm giving people data. But this is the one thing I will say. Everybody who has a mortgage today, teach your children to buy their home cash. That's what I'm going to say. Black August in full effects. Rashida Harris is on point today. Got me over here hyped. So, before we go into the final segment of the show, we got 15 minutes. I want to send a shout out to my brother Qua over at the Shed. I always support black business. This shirt says decolonize, and on the back it says free the land, high quality. I bought this shirt about 3 years ago, man. I always wear this shirt when I'm going out the country or I'm going into a highly populated Eurocentric place. And because I like for them to feel my energy and I don't have to say anything. And intelligent people know what this shirt means, no matter what their color is. And when they read it, they know I'm communicating a message.
You know what's crazy? I have a shirt that says, "We are not the same. Stay woke."
Do you feel me?
And the white person, I walked past and they go, "What does that shirt mean?" And it didn't hit me until after. I'm like, it's just a shirt. And then I thought about it afterwards, like, oh,
Yeah, see.
like, oh, you that admit that it hit you. That statement hit you some kind of way. You wanted me to define, yeah. So
I wear this shirt when I go into predominantly Eurocentric environments because I want them to know where. Yep, I want them to understand where I stand. I want them to understand how I'm operating, so we're clear without me having to communicate anything. And so sometimes I'll use a shirt like this
to make the statement.
Piece to Qual at the Shed to communicate that reality without being adversarial or anything. I can show you love, be respectful. A white person can be at Kroger right now and need a boost, and I got cables. I'm going to give them a boost.
With that shirt on.
I love human beings.
Right.
But I just know for everybody to know where I stand. You feel me? I just want them to know where I stand. My people have been colonized not only in the land that I came from, but even in the land in which I stand on. And we want to decolonize and free the land. And yeah, it's a lot of, we do a lot of things that don't help that process, but we still have to stand on something. That's all. I'm going to leave that alone. So, now, mortgages. Rent versus mortgage versus ownership. Just a recap. Mortgage is the Latin root word of mortgage means death pledge, because during Greco-Roman times, you would get your mortgage and you would pay on your home until the day that you died. Home ownership is owning your home cash. Home ownership is not paying on your home with a mortgage. There are too many variables in which you could lose the home. That is not home ownership. You're paying on a home. You're buying a home on time. I own a property now, and it'll be for me had it and for my absolutely. I feel you, and it's important. Some people lock in and get it done, but it's just not for everybody. And the data suggests that everybody can't and don't do it. With no mortgage, it was a HUD home. Peace to you. It ain't nothing better. Let me tell you something else what a mortgage does for you. Mortgage, see, when your largest monthly debt obligation is $1,500 a month, and it's a mortgage, and you don't pay that, 15 times 12 is about $16,000 a year, $17,000 a year, right? So think about that, $17,000 a year. I can just pay myself. I can pay myself mortgage. So I'll rent to myself. I'll rent to myself. Put that money up. I can get extra stuff for my children. I can buy a car. I can invest in a business. I can go on a vacation, all because I've eliminated my largest monthly debt obligation, which is a mortgage. There are other things that lead to economic freedom when you eliminate a mortgage. Eliminate a mortgage and you can live a wealthy lifestyle. When you eliminate a mortgage and your people be like, we getting ready to go to Cancun. All right, bet, let's get it. But when you got to pay a mortgage, you be like, yeah, I can't really go. I got to save up. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't go shopping. I can't do this.
Like
I can't
it's keeping a leash on you.
Exactly.
Socially.
And all aspects of your life, a mortgage suppresses your ability to be fluid, to be free. But when you ain't got a mortgage, you can just move. You can do things that other people can't do because you always have a surplus of cash. It ain't no, I got to save up for it. And there is no, I got to start my business next year. There is no, I can't go buy on crypto. I can't make an investment because I'm paying my mortgage. Be mortgage free and watch how much free money you have. Your free cash flow, it opens up. You'll love it. Things that you need to look out for. 228 teaser loans. That's when you get a variable rate loan that when you get a loan that's not a fixed rate loan and the first 2 years is fixed at a certain price, then the interest rate goes up for the last 28 years, and they call it a 228 teaser. Because for the first 2 years, they tease you with a fixed rate of 2% interest.
And then once you get comfortable paying it,
then it balloons up after the 2 years, and then it could balloon to a point where your mortgage could end up being $1,800 for the last 10 years, and that's how you end up losing your home. Debt free is freedom, absolutely. We end up losing our homes because we don't understand the terms and conditions of the borrowing. Yep. Look out for the 40-year mortgage. For people who got a forbearance, when they come back, when you go back to the table to renegotiate your loan and you are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months behind on your payments, the first thing they're getting ready to do is try to force you into a 40-year mortgage. That's going to cost you way more money than if you just try to scrape up about $8, $9, $10,000 and just pay your loan back, the forbearance time period back down and get back current. If you don't get back current, they're going to try to stuff you into a 40-year mortgage. And that's just going to have you starting all the way over, paying the loan off for 40 years. And most of y'all paying off these 40-year loans are already 47 years old. So you're going to be 47. You probably be dead. You're probably going to be dead before you pay the house off. So then when you don't pay the house off, you still owe a mortgage on it. Then it goes into probate because it wasn't paid off. You don't have full.
Give it to your kids.
And so it's a lot that goes into that. Try to avoid that 40-year mortgage. Trust me. The subprime loans are back. They are starting to loan people money for houses that really don't qualify. They call them ninja loans, like I told you before. No income, no job. Ninja loans. Or no doc loans. You ain't got to prove you got a job. They'll loan them to you. They'll loan you money under the table. Then they're going to take the loan and then put it in a mortgage-backed security basket. Then when you stop paying the loan, the mortgage-backed security basket collapses. Then when all of them collapse, then we're going to have a housing crisis.
I say then your ass out.
Yeah. And that's what's wrong with us as a whole with this knowledge that you're given. It's only 5 viewers from what I see. And our black people need to wake up. Look, I agree with you, but it's 5, might be 5 here, 10 somewhere else. I put it in different groups. Also, Tamika, I put it in different groups. So we probably have about 100 and 150 people watching. That's with YouTube, with the 7 Mile update page. So it's probably about 150 people watching. It's just about 6 people right here with us right now, which is cool. My job is to put the information out there. Hopefully, the video continues to get run. But this is where we are. This is the state of affairs. So renting versus owning. What value does renting bring? Renting brings the value of fluidity. It brings you peace. You don't have to worry about fixing anything. But you have to rent from the right people if you have to rent. Sometimes the strategy is to rent while the market is up, then buy when the market goes down so you can save money. And so it's all about the strategy that you want to employ. This is not a knock on anybody who has a mortgage because, like I said, mortgages work for some people. Some people use them as leverage and can make money off of the asset. But typically buying a house, you don't buy homes to invest. You buy a home for the security of it. Again, I don't care if the valuations of my home is $1 or $1 million. As long as it continues to cover my family with safety and security, I'm good. That's the value of it for me. But I try to stay away from mortgages. So I'm going to tell you my journey. I bought my first house. I'm going to tell you my journey about renting. The woman who is now my wife, I ain't going to tell y'all what year this was or whatever. No. But many, many years ago, the woman who is now my wife, I gave her some money to, we were in a 4-family flat. I was in the streets. Now I was getting legitimate money at the time. I was younger though. I was relatively young, but I was getting money at the time. But I really didn't know what money was or what values was. So I was used to living in the hood and used to being around the hood. So I had blocks of money in my drawer, top drawer at my crib. I used to have it at my sister's house. She didn't know it. I would have my niece putting it up under in shoe boxes up under the bed. My sister didn't even know. I used to have like 50, 60,000 in my sister's house and just up under the bed. And I tell my niece, bring it out to me at night. My little niece, I love her so much. She was my little rider. But anyway, and she'll tell you too. But I didn't really know money. I didn't know class. I didn't understand money, how it worked and what to do with it and things like that. But I was making some. And so we were in like a 4-family flat or whatever. And this is when our 2 oldest children were born, but my middle child hadn't been born yet. And I said, my middle child is not being born in this 2-family flat. But I didn't know nothing about buying a mortgage and none of that at the time. And I just wasn't on that tip. So we ended up getting a property in Dearborn for rent. We rented a property in Dearborn. It was on a nice, quiet block. It did everything we needed it to do. I just wanted the safety and security of, I was in the streets. I wanted to be able to drive home and feel safe. I wanted my woman who was, pregnant with my baby to feel comfortable. So I gave her the money to go first payment, first, last, security, whatever, right? So over time, we renting this property. The landlord would come to the door and get the rent. And sometimes my wife the woman who is now my wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, so my girlfriend would take the rent to the door. And one day, I just had a thought in my mind, and I said, this dude coming to my door, getting money from my wife's hand. I was like, I'm getting ready to change this. I'm not feeling that. So then we ain't got the rent, then what? We ain't answering the door? Nah, we pay our bills because I was getting money. You know what I'm saying? At this time now, I'm in Dearborn, so now I got money in my ceilings at the crib. You know what I'm saying? I got money in the ceilings in the basement. But we just renting. We low key. I ain't doing nothing major. And I just got on this tip like I'm going to buy a house. I didn't know nothing about real estate. I'm in my 20s. I ain't know nothing about real estate. On a risk with courage, I went and put a deposit down with the city of Detroit. This is before the land bank. Way before the land bank didn't even exist. I put down a deposit, right? $1,000. You had to go down there. This is when you had to go down there. I gave him $1,000 cashier's check. I was searching for houses, looking on their website. Everything just looked trash. Then I ended up, back then you would put your mortgage in via a bid, and if they accepted it, then you had to come and pay. I bid at $12,000 for a 2-bedroom house on the west side of Detroit on a street called Beachdale, off of Plymouth, over by Crocus Line, over by what used to be Drew Middle School in McKenzie. Low key. Nobody knew me over there, right? It was a bad neighborhood. Nobody knew me, and you could look at me and tell I was getting money. You know what I'm saying? They broke in the house twice, but that's a later story. So look, we got a couple of minutes before we get off, but I need y'all to understand this journey. So here's how the journey goes. I bought the house for 12 G's. I had 4 or 5 different contractors come out. Nobody wanted to touch the house. It was a lady living in the house when I bought it. I gave her $500 to get out. I said, look, I'm going to evict you. It's my house. I just bought it. I need you to get out. She said, I ain't got nowhere to go. I need $250 to get a U-Haul. A U-Haul. I said, here go $250 for a U-Haul and $250 for 30 days to pay a family member to stay with him. She moved her stuff out. I cleaned the house out. I paid a dude named Ivan and his crew to rehab the house. I put marble in the house. I put granite countertops in the house. I put double showers in the house. I turned a 2-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom house. I put $68,000 into this house over time. A 20-something-year-old kid. Don't tell me what you can't do. And when it was time to move, the house still wasn't ready. I hadn't laid sod or nothing. But I was tired of paying rent over there, right? I said, you know what? This house ain't going to never be ready till I get in it and move in it. I've had him build stashes in the house, basement new, everything new, redid the addition on the house. I had swivel TVs in the back room, fully carpeted, 3-bedroom, brick block windows, beautiful. They broke in it 2 or 3 times, but it was mine. I refinanced that house for $88,000, right? I didn't put $68,000 in, I'm sorry. I put $12,000 and then $48,000. I had $60,000 in the house cash out of my pocket. I refinanced the house for 89 G's. Went in, and my mortgage on that house was $414 a month. I went and bought 2 more houses, one on Indiana, one on Boxwood. I got 3 properties off one in my 20s. Don't tell me what you can't do. So I'm going to slide past that story. I had ended up getting, me and the woman who is now my wife ended up buying a house in North Rosedale Park, $140,000 house. We bought it at the height of the housing market, in 06. The house, we bought it for more than what it was worth. It was a $150,000 valuation. Now, right now, that house worth $290,000, $300,000. But back then, it was only worth $150,000. But it was really on a $125,000 house. We bought the house.
Because of what you put into it afterwards.
Yep, the two 28 teaser got us. We ended up having to sell the house. We sold the house on a short sale. We had to sell the house on a short sale. But in the midst of selling the house on a short sale, we finagled and got the house in Canton before we had to do the short sale. So while we were short selling, we got the house in Canton. So we were able to make a smooth transition. But the house on Gainsborough in North Rosedale Park, that house now is worth $290,000. But I said these are all things that I learned. We bought a house at the height of the housing market, and essentially we lost it. That you said if you got a short sale, that means you don't want it no more, right? And so we short sold the house, and then they came in and bought it after the market collapsed, and bought it for what it was supposed to be bought for. They might have bought the house for like $80,000, right? So then they turn around, now it's worth $300,000. So we bought it too early. Bad mortgage, bad decision, incorrect decision. No, you shouldn't have got the mortgage. Somebody else comes in, buys it cash, and now they're reaping the benefits. So I said, I ain't going to be the person that buy at the wrong time no more. I'm going to be the person that buy at the right time. I've been through that whole process, the whole process. So everybody who has only done real estate and only won, you ain't experienced nothing. You ain't experienced nothing in real estate until you've lost money, till you haven't did it correctly. Because that's where you make more money. That's where you make more money. So I'm going to end the show right there. I wish everybody the best. Peace and love. Rent versus mortgage. Make sure your family see this. Make sure your children buy their home cash. Your home only becomes an asset when you own it cash. When you have a mortgage, you are buying it. You haven't bought it. And sometimes renting can be of an advantage to mortgages. Not all the time, but sometimes. And there are times where a mortgage is viable for leverage when you're buying the house at the right price at the right time. So just know you have to take all these things in consideration. Good luck. This was Revolutionary Wealth Builders, bringing wealth education to the people on 7 Mile Radio. Check us out on YouTube at Revolutionary Wealth Builders. Check me out on social media, Emmett Black RWB, and we'll get up with you guys next Thursday at 11 a.m. Peace.
Hello, Detroit. I'm Cynthia Deanna, the cake artist of J. Romel's Cakery. I specialize in custom cakes, weddings, baby showers, you name it. I do it all. I have an Instagram. You can find me on J. Romel's Cakery and Facebook as well under Cynthia Deanna. The contact number to book cakes is 248-910-3417. Book with us today.
Hello, Detroit. It's Dr. Carla from House of Healthy Living. If you or a loved one are struggling with a chronic condition and you want to walk the natural path, check me out on Instagram at A Dose of Dr. Carla, or you can find me on the web at www